How are you?
Hey Joey, I'm doing all right. How are you?
All right. It's less cold in New York today, so I'll take it.
Yeah, man.
But
I was just out there last week, and I brutal, brutal
yeah,
nights.
it's a thing. Uh, I it's got to be interesting for you. You have a slightly different way of coming to helming a movie than other people, but also I think in a way, I think people kind of underestimated you in a way because you've got some hardware on the mantle. It's not like
Yeah,
it's not like someone just handed you a camera and went, I don't know, you try it.
yeah,
Why not?
exactly.
I think the material so clearly speaks to the idea of like, you can work in the industry, but can you do the thing that you really set out to do, or do you have to do a thing someone else said was a good idea? Or how do you compromise that? How do you find that happiness? And I think it's such an interesting way to get out frustrations, also entertain audiences. And I imagine it's part of the reason it attracted everyone that it did, because Jeffrey's like, yeah, I've got some things I did I would have rather not done, or made a thing no one saw that I wish people, that
Yeah.
it's so much in the industry. So I'm curious, as you kind of got it off the ground, is it sort of like I'm getting one over on everyone? Like, how are they letting me do this one?
It wasn't. I mean, I will say that the first time I started thinking about that was we were auditioning a woman for the part of Agnes, which eventually went to Leslie Uggams, and she said, before the audition, they always ask the actor, "Do you have anything you'd like to ask the director?" And she said, "No, I don't have anything to ask you. I just want to say that I can't believe they're letting you make this movie." And I said, "Well, why is that?" And she said, "Well, because I'm a black woman. I've been working in this industry for over 50 years. And for half a century, we've been talking about the things that this movie has been talking about. And I can't believe that they're actually letting you go ahead and say this on screen." And so I think that was the first time that I ever really felt that was the case. I think that I knew that the movie was different. I knew that the script was different. I didn't know how reluctant people were going to be to make it until we actually got it out there, and people were praising it effusively, and then 98% of the people who were praising it effusively passed on it and said, "Not for us." And so, yeah, I don't think that I felt like I was getting one over on people, but I did feel like, okay, I think that we're onto something here, because I did start seeing like the passion that people were bringing to the project, that the passion that the actors were bringing to the project, the passion that well, I was talking to the production designer, and he said, "I've never seen this before, but the people who are decorating the sets told me that they've gone out and bought the book, that they love the script so much that they're reading the novel that it's based on." And we had Grips reading the novel that it was based on. Like, all these people really sort of were leaning into just the story. It wasn't just like, I'm coming to work to get a paycheck. It was like, I'm coming to work because I actually sort of really believe in the material. And so that to me was when it really started to feel different, when I saw people's enthusiasm in a way that I hadn't seen before, and other people hadn't seen before either.
Oh yeah, and it's a way to also have the enthusiasm. It's obviously it's for the cast, it's for the story, it's for the whole production, but to sort of in a way for you as well. When you're just a writer, it's rare that the writer is the one who gets praised first, even if it like I created it, it came from me. I have the statue here, like it says I did a good job. It's there's always a director, there's a cast, there's something else first, and I think here it very much speaks to your talents and your story being told, and what you're saying just now is really true. You go and everyone says this is amazing, it's the best script I've read in 10 years. You're like, so we're making it? Oh heavens, no, I
Yeah.
wouldn't give you a for this. You're like,
Exactly. That was
very
that was 98% of the meetings that we went into was exactly
yeah.
that response. "Oh my God, this is amazing. I've never read a script this good. Okay, great. Can you write a check?" "No, I don't. I'm not willing to take that risk, but great work."
We won't even validate your parking, by the way. Get out. And I think the funny part is when you actually watch the movie, it's not saying this great truth that is, it's just telling a story. Like it's an entertaining movie meant for large audiences. Like it's not it like the funny part is you said you didn't think you were getting one over on everyone. It's not. It's just meant to be entertaining and have something to say about the world we live in. And for some reason
Yeah,
that is
I think
revolutionary.
I think that is. I think that everybody kind of has a difficulty with nuance and complexity. I think that's it's just human being. That's a human condition. Is sort of like this difficulty understanding nuance and dealing with complexity. I think that that's especially acute in the United States. And I think that especially when it comes to these kinds of issues, when it comes to issues of race and identity and sexuality and the kinds of things that the movie talks about, I think that people especially want a binary answer. They want to know who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. How should I feel about this? Why aren't you telling me like what the answer is? And I think that the important thing of the film to me, and sort of in keeping with the spirit of the book isn't didactic. The book isn't spoon feeding people morality and lessons. The book is just telling us, as you said, like it's giving you some characters, it's giving you some scenarios in which those characters find themselves, and it allows you to go off and make of it what you will. And so that's really what I wanted to do with the film. Also, as you said, I really wanted to entertain people. People ask me, well, what do you want audiences to take away from this? And I say a smile. That's truly it. Like, I just want people to come to the theater and have a good time and laugh, and then leave and go talk about the movie with their friends because they can't stop thinking about it. I think that is, that kind of let's go to the movie theater and laugh and sort of like really have a good time for 2 hours and then leave with a smile on our face while also thinking a little bit. I think that's an experience that a lot of people have been missing at the cinema, which is certainly something that I've been missing at the cinema. And so I wanted to make a movie that felt really big tent, that felt like it wasn't just for people in New York and LA, that it was for everybody, and that everybody could come in and find something to appreciate about it.
Oh yeah, and I think that's, most people who love movies, who are compelled to write, who do the stuff we do, not that we do the same thing, but, that's the kind of movies you got into. Obviously, the big stuff is everyone loves a Spielberg, everyone loves that stuff, but the thing that really hit you is probably was mid-budget at the time, didn't have the biggest movie star in the world, told an entertaining story and hit you in a way. And I think that's what this movie does so well, is it doesn't, like you said, doesn't bang you over the head. It's telling two different stories in a way. You can latch on to the character study as entirely and have a great time.
Exactly.
You can get satire. It really is, I think, just a good story, well done. And it's funny that gets this praise as, can you believe he was able to do it? Which I think, like anything else, it's like a state of where we are. Like, oh, we made a movie that would have been the easiest green light 30 years ago, and now it's like a trick that got made.
Exactly. And sometimes, the people who are telling me these things are somehow greenlighting $100 million movies constantly. The people saying we can't make this movie. And it's almost, it really does feel in a weird way that it's easier to make a $150 million movie these days than it is to make a $5 million movie. I have no idea why.
Well, it's because it's the idea of, I think, we can make $1 billion if that goes well, but you'll lose money if it doesn't.
Exactly.
I'm going to lose money here. I just need like 12 guys.
Exactly.
Like, I know you recognize Jeffrey Wright. He's not that expensive. Like, he's surprisingly, we can have him. Like,
exactly.
You've seen him in Batman, but like a week on Batman is going to be the cost here. It's funny. It's the same conversation everyone has. It's like, oh, if I ran things, I'd greenlight more American fiction, because you're like, one, it's good for you, and two, the idea of risk is, I don't understand the idea of the risk. Risk for me is real steel or whatever. It costs $200 million and nobody knows what it is. Like, why are they going?
I totally agree. I think that if only we could be, the heads of the studios. But then I think that, who knows? I'd probably last for a week as a head of a studio.
That is the problem. I mean, that's the funny part of that element of the movie, is that, if anything, you could argue, like, I'm not really going as far as I could. Like, I'm going as far as a person who doesn't know what's going on will accept.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I really wanted about the movie was to be satirical without being farcical. I wanted it to remain grounded, because I do believe that this could happen. I think that nothing that happens in the movie seems so far off the mark for me. I think that it obviously is funny and exaggerated in some places, but not as much as you might think.
I think if anything, the most exaggerated thing is Monk going, here's the title I want. That's the only thing that I like. I don't know that they would actually release that, but everything else, 100%. Like,
absolutely,
you can see this. Like, he's annoying himself into an Oscar eventually, and that's like, if the movie was 15 minutes longer, he'd be like muttering to himself on the Oscar stage. It's
exactly.
And I think that's the thing that I think is such a compelling part of the movie, is he's holding back the joy in a way. Everyone else is kind of looking at it and going, if they know, like, obviously some people know, like, seems like a good thing that's happening to you. Like his agent, you're making a shitload of money doing this. This is
Yeah.
working out really well.
Yeah.
It's very much, I think, the artist. Everyone wants to have I got a piece of my heart. The joke that Kevin Smith used to have is I gotta tell something very personal. I need $5 million in Ben Affleck. And how cringe that is to be like, that's how I tell my personal art. And here it's definitely personal art, but you can clearly see it's a sense of I want to entertain. I want to make a movie that people go, I didn't waste my money. I had a good time, and I don't want the conversation just to be what's for dinner afterwards. I want to say, what's for dinner?
I think that the country's more divided than I've ever seen it in my lifetime. I think that sort of extends to the world, unfortunately. I think the world is more divided than I've ever seen it in my lifetime. And I think that, one of the reasons we remain so divided is because we've all kind of retreated into our separate corners. We don't talk to people who don't vote the way that we do. We don't talk to people who live in places that we don't live. We sort of exist in our own sort of bubbles and reading our own news and listening to our own music and watching our own movies. And I really didn't want to make a movie that was just for people in New York and LA. I wanted to make something that really spoke to all different kinds of people. And so now we've shown the movie to predominantly black audiences, predominantly white audiences. We've shown it in Europe. We've shown it in the West Coast. We've shown it on the East Coast. We've shown it to old people, young people. We've shown it to all kinds of people. And every single kind of person across the spectrum has come out and said to me that they found something that resonated with them, that felt like they could understand that. And I think that comes from the idea that the specific is universal, and sort of like the more that you dig down and make these characters feel real and lived in and like actual human beings, the more that everybody's going to feel like they've been invited into the party. And so that to me is one of the greatest things about the movie is seeing all the different kinds of people who tell me that they found something in the movie that delighted them.
And that's the thing I think you don't get until you watch the movie, because it's not that's the nuance that I don't think a tweet or review, even just like seeing it at Toronto and like, by the way, you don't really get that out. And I feel like because it's so effective, it's what it's doing. I almost feel like you would have been disappointed if it's really playing well, oddly just to white people. Like, why is that? Or
Exactly.
They're rejecting. Like, it would feel like, but that's not the point I was making. What is lost in translation here? I think the fact that everyone sees it as an open 10, it's a shitty political term, but like the idea of like, no, this is for everyone. It's not saying anything about you. It's telling a story you should find something in. And I think
exactly. I think that ultimately the great thing about movies for me has always been realizing that people who are on the other side of the world from you are also incredibly similar to you, despite all the differences that you may see, and sort of being allowed into their lives lets you see that like, oh, we're all the same. We sort of like may believe in a different God and speak a different language and live in a different country, but ultimately, we're all human beings with our own fears and passions and insecurities and backstories, and we're all the leads of our own little movies. And so I really wanted to allow people to come in and say like, yeah, Jeffrey's black and his family is black. Monk, this is a story about a black character and his black family, but hopefully everybody can sort of like find something to take away from it. I would say it's more about sort of the freedom to be yourself and what happens when we are not given that freedom to be ourselves. That is really the main theme. It sort of has nothing to do necessarily with the race of the people in the story.
Exactly, and I think that's what makes it one of the best films of the year. So you should be incredibly proud. Oh, my pleasure, and I'm thrilled that it hit the way it did at a festival. Unexpected, I'm sure in a way, because how can you plan it? But
yeah, no. Look, man, I was people were, for whatever reason, this is the year that every single famous director decided to release a movie, and so it's like
no problem there.
Yeah, it was so I was pretty people told me like, temper your expectations, it might not even get into Toronto, this is a very competitive year. And so when it got in, I was thrilled. I didn't even allow myself to think of the audience award or anything like that. I was jumping up and down for joy just even hearing that it got into the festival at all.
The one person who loved the strike, you. No, it worked out great for you. Thanks. Congratulations again. I look forward to seeing the rest of it go down and the rest of the career, because it's exciting.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.